We love what we do. We can make banking fun, we can make it relatable, and we can make it for everybody.
Welcome to Why Guarantee. I'm Chelsea Reber. Thank you so much for listening today. Please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment on this episode. Today, I am joined by Buffy Dyess and Ryan Coaxum. Thank you two so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Us.
Buffy, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into banking.
I've been in banking for 35 years. I started at a community bank as a teller working during college breaks and gradually worked my way into the compliance arena.
And what is your role with Guaranty and where are you located?
Okay, I've been with Guaranty Bank Trust since 2012. I'm a Senior Vice President, Chief Compliance Officer, and I office out of Longview, Texas.
Excellent. Ryan, what's your history with banking? How did you get into it?
I started as a teller as well back in 2010. I've been in banking for 15 years, and I've loved my journey this far.
And what is your role with Guaranty and where are you located?
My role with Guarantee, I'm a Senior Vice President of Community Development and External Affairs, and I'm located in Austin, Texas.
Okay, excellent. Buffy, I want to start with you. If you can explain to me what is CRA and who is it for?
Okay, CRA stands for the Community Reinvestment Act, one of the many laws a bank is required to comply with. It actually started back in the 70s as a way to combat redlining.
Okay.
Which is a complicated subject. I encourage you to look it up. I won't go into it today, but really it's targeted. It requires banks to offer services, loans, and investments in the communities that we are in, particularly aimed at the low to moderate income individuals and geographies within the communities we serve.
Ryan, what is noteworthy about the day-to-day with CRA and especially in community development?
I would say the most noteworthy is the people, the communities, the different organizations that we're able to touch through dealing with or serving, as I like to say, the low to moderate income individuals.
And what are some key initiatives that Guaranty Bank is working on right now when it relates to this?
Yeah, I could take that one too. So our big key initiative that we are working on is the Guaranty Bank Community First Mortgage Program, and that is helping individuals become first-time home buyers, which we know is important, and that is the major wealth that most Americans have and on a day-to-day basis. And so that helps homeowners or potential homeowners with closing costs. And we know everything is just very expensive, so any kind of little bit actually helps. And the bank took it upon an initiative to say, hey, we see this as a problem, and we're going to do something about it.
Buffy, owning a home is obviously one of the biggest responsibilities that someone may go through in their entire life. Why is it important to have a connection with a community bank like Guaranty when you're going through something like that?
Well, community banks, in particular Guaranty Bank and Trust, we really get to know our customers. And we want to make sure that whatever they're getting into is something that they really can afford and that would benefit them. I think you just get that extra touch here where they really get to know you, they look at your circumstances. And Ryan mentioned our Community First Mortgage Program, a really important way that the bank helps people actually get into homeownership.
I know there are 3 pillars when it comes to the community development. So you've got financial literacy, workforce, economic development, and affordable housing. We just talked a little bit about housing, but Ryan, I'd like you to touch on those pillars and how Guaranty is really addressing those.
Yeah, they're addressing them in a big way. And, I love that we work for a bank that has such culture that wants us to be in those. And when we were developing those pillars, it's like, no, yes, we're bound by CRA, but it's actually something that the bank just cares about truly in order to, as we love our tagline here at Community Development, growing strong communities. Yeah. But yeah, those in terms of financial literacy, it's kind of the bedrock of the foundation, and that can be of all ages. We love to start with the younger group, but that goes all the way up to my favorite group is seniors. Going into the church groups and talking with the senior citizens, they just love it. And they'll sit up there like, what? They'll steal your information just by walking by you?
It seems like it these days, right?
It is. And so we have these little cards, these little, what are they, RDF cards that they're little covers. And they're like, oh, can I get one? Oh, and my daughter needs one as well. So, you just kind of love that. You love that type of thing. And then I would say workforce economic development, again, that's another bedrock of the community. And I've always gone by the, teach a man to fish instead of just giving them something. And that creates a stronger banking relationship for us, but also stronger community citizens.
Well, and Chelsea, I'd like to mention too, that's a really big part of CRA is supporting your small businesses. It's not even just low to moderate income individuals, but CRA and the bank recognize the importance of our small businesses in our community and our small farms. And again, like Ryan mentioned, while it's a important part, it's a regulation, but it's also at the heart of who Guaranty Bank and Trust is serving the community. That's your small business, that's your individuals, it's your low to moderate income, your small farms. And the bank does this through a lot of initiatives. Think back to PPP during COVID. I mean, it was huge, the support that the bank offered to all its small businesses to keep them afloat.
You both have had a lot of experience with the community bank and here at Guaranty Bank and Trust. Ryan, is there a moment in your career that had a really significant positive impact?
There are a lot in my career, and specifically at Guaranty Bank and Trust. I would say, and you just mentioned it, and we were talking about the PPP loans, and those were given out through the government when we were facing the pandemic. And one of the things that were stand out is I have a customer that is the owner of a small children's school theater. And literally, and she's a good friend of mine as well. And we were sitting there and she's like, oh, I don't know. We're just going to have to close our doors. And I'm like, nope, I can help you. We got it. I'm a banker. Haha.
I think I can help with this.
Not all superheroes wear capes. And so, I felt strong because of the bank that is backing me. And so we got the PPP loans done, and she was so thankful and she was able to keep her doors open. But then as a thank you, she recorded a prayer by Fiddler on the Roof. And all the kids sung their harmonies in different parts on the little videos that we were making during the pandemic. And so they would film at their homes and then they spliced them all together. And it was just a beautiful moment. And so she thanked the bank in the beginning, and then the children sang. And it's like, this is why. Yeah. This is why we do what we do. It's not necessarily for the big businesses that people like to think about in making all this money. It's for the mom and pops businesses that you were talking about, and just to be able to be a part of the community and have it keep on going.
Yeah, I love that story. Buffy, where do you see Guaranty Bank making an impact in your community?
I know in particular in Longview, they're a huge supporter of East Texas CASA, and I've been a part of that organization for quite a long time, serving on their board. We see it every day in the fact that they sponsor our nonprofit events. They're at the events. We had runners in the 5K. On top of that sponsorship, they provided capes to our runners, which was great. But you see this across all of our markets where the bank is really heavily involved in the nonprofits that we're a part of.
So when I think of mascots, I think of sports teams, but Guaranty Bank is very unique in the sense that they have a mascot. So I want to hear more about Cash and how he makes an impact in your communities, both of you, and just also how he is involved in those community initiatives. And Buffy, I'd love to hear from you.
Go Cash.
Yeah.
We love Cash.
We do love Cash.
Yes. What stands out to me about our mascot, it was great. At one of our 5Ks, Cash came out, and we also had some other restaurant mascots from Menchie's and Chick-fil-A, and Cash and the other mascots ran part of the race and against each other. It was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But Cash really brings fun to, the difficult subject of financial literacy. And what I love about Cash, he's not just there for the kids. The adults love to see them too. Ryan can probably speak more to it.
No, everybody loves cash. I mean, when you
Yes.
look at cash, you can't not but want to like, okay, let's hug it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is because as you said, financial literacy, banking, finance, it's not necessarily the sexiest thing. And sometimes we don't do a good job as an industry of making it inclusive for everybody. And so when you have a mascot up there, it just kind of breaks that tension, tears down that wall, and the little kids are like, hey. And we have some of the best pictures of kids, adults of all ages, sitting there hugging him.
Dogs.
Dogs. I do. My ladybird when she was little. We have one, and she's just so small in his hands. And the best thing that I love about him is his dancing.
Oh, yeah?
Look, he's not better than me, but no,
But he's
no.
a great dancer.
He's a great dancer, and so if the music is going, Cash will be in the center of it, doing whatever, and you just kind of love that.
Well, and you said it best. I think when you said it's not the sexiest topic, and a lot of people hear banking and they think, okay, you've got to have money and you've got to be an adult. But I think the mascot and Cash and just everything he kind of encompasses creates that inclusivity to everyone.
And and that's what it's all about. I feel that's probably when they were designing CRA is how do we make this more inclusive for everyone? And so if it takes a mascot, if it takes a community bank, if it takes just reaching out, to your fellow man saying, hey, I'm here to help. I go into rooms and I think everybody in these rooms, even if it's a couple hundred people, can be a customer of Guaranty Bank. So whether that's, having your $5 in your account like me, or you have a little more commas in your account, but everybody can be a customer in such a way. And I think it is our job to, extend that hand. People like to be asked. People love to say, how is your banking relationship? Because if not, they'll just go to whatever bank and they'll just be a number. And at Guarantee, you don't have to be a number. You can actually be, as corny as it sounds, you could be a part of the Guarantee family.
Well, and Ryan, you said something that I think is really important about going into the bank, talking to your banker, regardless of if you're
Yes.
super wealthy or not. If you have
Yes.
$5 in your account, go meet your banker.
Yes.
Ask them questions, talk to them. I think sometimes people are a little afraid to do that if they're not wealthy.
And and that brings down to the tagline that we use for the bank: growing because we want to help you grow. We can do that as bankers. Just because you have $5 doesn't mean that you can't have $1 million tomorrow.
Exactly.
And if you have that kind of guidance in your life, everybody needs a little guidance. So it's always helpful.
Yeah, I think it can be scary for some people.
Very.
You hear financial literacy and, just understanding money and understanding the whole banking process. And so I feel like, at least personally, when something is scary, if I know the person who I'm working with, it's going to be less scary.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh no, I was gonna say that's kind of what happened with PPP as well. A lot of people were having kind of the more big box banks, and they didn't have those relationships. But as the pandemic kind of roared on, they were just kind of texting us on our phones and being like, "Hey, are you good? We got you." And that's one less thing in such a down time that they didn't have to worry about, and that's what we want to do.
Well, you mentioned relationships, and here's the thing. Yeah, it's easier behind a computer screen to apply for a loan or do whatever, open an account. However, if you have that relationship with your banker, if you've walked in, it's going to make a big difference in your success.
Correct. And I love that old school banking. I mean, people always kind of make fun of me because my clientele goes on the more, seniored age.
More in the mature range
More
of
mature.
things.
Everybody loves a good vintage find.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But no, they still will come into my office and I have my little Nespresso machine. We will sit there and just talk about life, talk about banking. And I think, that's one of the reasons, that's another why I got into banking is because I always feel like we're pillars of the community. And as that pillar comes great responsibility. But not only are we pillars of community standing physically at the bank that we're at, but we're in churches.
Exactly.
We're at the hospitals. We're at the libraries. We're at the schools. And so those are the kind of things that could just make your heart smile in what your bank should be doing. And if it's not, you might want to find another bank.
Exactly.
I feel like that everything we've talked about in the last couple of minutes is going to go into this question, but culture is such a hot topic word right now. And you hear everybody talking about their culture and whether it's changing the culture or building on the current culture. Tell me, why is Guaranty Bank's culture maybe not different, but what is it about the culture and what makes it special? And I'll start with you, Buffy.
Okay, I know from my perspective, culture is everything here. It's why I stay at Guarantee. It's why I love it so much. From a compliance perspective, you don't always have a culture that embraces and supports compliance. Here it's different. From the top down, they support compliance, they understand it, they embrace it, and it makes a big difference to me to work for somewhere that values honesty and integrity.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ryan?
I would also say culture is an action. And what I mean by culture is an action is, we could talk about it. I feel like a lot of places just kind of talk about, oh, we have great culture. We have great culture. But really, you're giving a pizza party to somebody that's made you a lot of money. Like, womp, womp.
Yeah.
Why I think it's an action is because I'll bring up the story of our CEO, Ty. Mm-hmm. Love Ty. In this role, I get to talk to him a whole lot more. So I'm just I even text him, be like, well, what do you think about this? And he'll respond back. But I have to go through our committee meetings where I talk about community development and what's going on and what we have in the future. And, I always say that those meetings kind of felt like I had to kind of sing for my supper. I kind of did. Buffy's in those meetings. So.
Sure.
And so, they're important to me. And I really take a lot of time planning those so I can get all the information out. And Ty has a really busy schedule because he's a CEO running a $3 billion bank. So, but one thing that stood out to me is the last meeting that we had, he was in the meeting on Zoom, and it was like kind of like a sketchy little connection that he had, but he was there in his car. And he's like, Ryan, I had to be here because it's important to me to be here just to see what's going on and what y'all been doing. And I was just like, stop. Like, I was like,
Heart hands.
Yeah. And that's that action that I'm talking about.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. It's not just the words. It's not just the taglines and the mottos. It's what are the people from top to bottom actually doing every day.
Yes.
Yeah. Just as we kind of wrap up, is there anything you want listeners, viewers to know, especially about CRA or community development and what Guaranty Bank is doing right now?
Yes, know that we love what we're doing in our communities. It's important to us. Mm-hmm. Just as a side note, follow what we're doing. Go onto our social media. Follow, GNTY. Follow Cash on social media. It will definitely give you a look into what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ryan? Anything? Any last words?
Last words. We love what we do.
Yeah.
We love what we do. We can make banking fun. We can make it relatable, and we can make it for everybody. So, this is a great place to work at. You get to work with Buffy. I will say that Buffy is so supportive every time I call her, just because community development works very closely with compliance. And, I need her because she'll be like, no, you can't do that. Or, yes, keep going. And, I love that. So like I said, it's in the people that we work with in the bank that we work for. Mm-hmm. So
great.
Can't say any more.
Thank you all both for joining us today on Why Guarantee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to find more information about Guaranty Bank, visit them online at gnty.com. The link is in the description below.